Alright. Alright, what's up YouTube? It's Gervonta here. I'm just resting in my bed before I gotta go back to my not so great job, but I mean, I enjoy it. Sooner than later, I'll reach my goals for cybersecurity and IT. So, yeah, let's go. Let's talk about Gervonta Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios. We have some really good fights on this card. We have Mr. Gervonta Tank Davis and Barrios. Let me just look at the Tapology, because that's a lot better site to explain things a little bit easier. But we'll just talk about Mario Barrios Tapology. Mario Barrios Tapology. I like watching his sister fight. His sister is a very good fighter. Shout out to his sister, man. She's a beautiful fighter. Selenia Barrios. But there's the homie. He's the same age as me. I love watching this guy. I've been watching him ever since, like, he actually got signed on to PBC, and he's just such a good fighter, man. You know, I really like how he actually stepped up like a true Mexican fighter would, or like any real dedicated fighter would do. It doesn't matter what heritage you have. It's just that Barrios, you know, he's definitely the goods, and he's a good fighter. But I think this fight alone is going to be a 50-50 fight. I don't know who's going to win this fight. But as you can see here, Mario Barrios fighting out of San Antonio, Texas. 26-0. I believe he has 20-something knockouts. I forgot how many knockouts he got. But that doesn't really matter. I'm not really going to go so deep into that. But this guy has a high knockout rate. Let's just make it clear that we have some really good fights here. As you can see here, my boy Erickson Lubin versus the homie Jason Rosario. I love these two guys. That's going to be a flame fight. My boy Argenis Mendez versus Baktir Akhmedov, the same guy that gave Barrios problems before Barrios had won his WBA regular title. And I think honestly, Baktir Akhmedov, he's a problem, man. You know, this guy does not fuck around. You know, he be putting people down. Like, as you can see right here, he basically KO'd his last five opponents. No, his last 4 opponents, he has stopped. He brutally stopped them. And I mean, I'm not so sure about like their skill levels. That's a little bit, you know, skeptical there, even though that this guy is an Uzbekistani fighter, and I don't really think too highly of these fighters from Uzbekistan, because I personally believe that these fighters actually need to start fighting, you know, top tier competition. And I think it starts with American level fighters, because if you do think about it, why the fuck should anybody take some fighter from Europe? I'll just go with like a guy like Anthony Fowler. This motherfucker fights at 154, but yet he has the WBA Intercontinental belt, which I'm not even gonna call it a belt. I'm just gonna call it a trophy. It's not even a belt. Stop calling these semi-belts your belts that you claim to have, for all you fake ass fighters out there. Which, I mean, don't get it twisted. You know, it's good to have those accomplishments, but when you think about it, these belts are just there for you to get higher up into the rankings, so that way you could force that belt to become a mandatory for the champion, because that's really what the belts are supposed to be there for. So that way you can, I guess, like, move up higher into, I guess, at the ranking system. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it makes all the sense in the world of why these sanctioning bodies would do that, because it eats up most of everyone's time for all these fighters to kind of get built up properly, fight this guy out of this sanctioning body, fight that woman out of that sanctioning body, and then I guess when you make it all the way to the top, then that's when your career is at like a high stake, because it's like, you know, I understand why a lot of these big name fighters, they're not willing to put their record on the line, because one, you know, it's a big payday, and two, I guess there's just too much pride in boxing. You know, there's way too much pride in the sport, where people use that as an excuse to not give up their O. And, look, like, all the greats have lost, but let me just tell you, it does not fucking matter. It does not matter. It just really shows that that this sport is just any other sport like you do in the world, and you compete to be the best. You don't get into boxing to think that you're going to be like this great up and coming fighter. You don't know that until you get inside the ring and fight your contemporaries. So, what I like about, certain fighters that actually come out to fight, they actually give you some really good fights. But I'm actually going to cover these three names that are listed up at the top. I'm going to probably talk about Mr. Argenis Mendez and Bakhtir Akhmedov, Rosario and Lubin, and then Tank and Barrios. Oh, and definitely my boy Carlos Adames. I have him beating Alexis Salazar. I don't know too much about that guy, but that should be a really awesome flame fight. But let's just talk about Argenis Mendez versus Bakhtir Akhmedov. I think stylistically, Mendez could definitely lose to Akhmedov. Why? Because Akhmedov, stylistically, he's a heavy hitter. And I don't really think that heavy hitters are always the ones to keep winning fights. But when you look at how Akhmedov actually fights, he fights very methodical, and he really shows a lot of grit in his tenacity when he fights on the inside. His biggest weakness is that he's flat-footed, and Mendez, he's also like somewhat flat-footed. He can move when he wants to, but I think both of these guys are going to go toe-to-toe, because Mendez, he's a lot older. Akhmedov, he's still in the prime of his career. He's still at 30 years old, but I mean, you start to dwindle down pretty fast when you don't take care of like your body at 30. So you have to like understand that your body is going to wear and tear slowly but surely, but you got to be careful with how you fight too, because if you fight all rock'em sock'em type of robotic fighting, then that's what's going to get you knocked out, and possibly you're going to end up injuring like yourself pretty bad. And I think with Argenis Mendez, with his last fight that he had with Richardson Hitchens, that was a good fight. I actually did respect that fight. I loved how Hitchens actually weathered the storm and gave Mendez a brawl, because Mendez, he's a really big hitter. Like, a lot of people don't know that, but he could really hurt somebody when he gets you, when he catches you at the right moment. So I think the biggest advantage for Mendez is his jab. His jab is going to be there all night, but the problem is that you have to look out for Akhmedov's overhand left or right hand. I don't know which one it is, but he has a great overhand punch that could really stun you and really get you going in terms of like getting an opponent off balance, and he uses that to his advantage for more pressure. Because the good thing about Akhmedov is that he's a pressure fighter, and Mendez, he doesn't like pressure when pressure gets to him. So if he knows that pressure is going to be too much for him, then he tends to back off, and then he tends to box you from the outside. And then if he's able to, try to at least score like a knockdown or maybe a knockout, then he'll go for it. But he's pretty economical with what he tries to do, because he's not the type of guy to waste his punches, and then if he if he catches you, he catches you. No, he knows how to outbox you. He knows how to keep a fight interesting, but he has to use his technicality in the fight. So I think that fight alone is going to determine greatness of how that fight will be played out. And I think Mendez will definitely edge out Akhmedov. I'm gonna have it a split decision by I don't know if it's like a 10 rounder or a 12 rounder, but I got a split decision victory for Argenis Mendes. That'll be a very rough, rugged fight. But if Mendes does not keep his defense up, it might be a short night. Because Akhmedov, he knows how to hit. He does not let you get breathing room. He likes to work on the inside a lot, and he does not give you any pressure to come back and make yourself feel comfortable in the fight. So I definitely have Mendes winning if he knows how to outbox him. But if he doesn't, then I got Akhmedov by mid to late stoppage. I'd say by the 6th or 8th round. But that's my prediction for that first fight. The second fight will be the co-main event of Mr. Erickson Lubin versus Jason Rosario. I think this is a really good matchup because, one, we all know that Lubin, he may be a bit chinny, and two, Rosario, he doesn't fuck around. He is a very dangerous fighter. Jason Rosario and Lubin are two of the most dangerous fighters at 154 because everybody knows that these two guys are going to come out to fight, but if Lubin, F's around and gets caught by Rosario's left or right hooks, it's going to be a really short night. And I'm not saying this to trash Erickson Lubin. I like him as a fighter, but I also like Jason Rosario. Jason Rosario reminds me of a mini version of, I would say, he kind of reminds me of like a mini version of Diego Corrales mixed with like a maybe Ivan Calderon. Because he has like that Felix Trinidad-ish, I come forward and then we bang it out type of fighter. But he does know how to outbox somebody. He doesn't need to be brawling out with everybody, and he knows how to stylistically break someone down. Knowing that he did lose to Jermell Charlo, and knowing that Lubin, he got a good fresh victory off of Terrell Gachet. I don't know how this fight will really play out. Because Lubin, if he knows how to outbox somebody, and he doesn't mess around and try to get caught with some bullshit, where he gets hit and then he kind of like fades away in the second half of like a fight, then I got Lubin by a very close split decision victory. But if it's going to be a knockout, I definitely got Rosario over Lubin. Because I don't know how Lubin would not be a sucker for Rosario's left or right hand, wherever it may land. But if Lubin keeps his defense up and he uses his boxing abilities, and if he catches Rosario with a big punch, then I could definitely see Lubin stopping, Rosario as well. Because both of these guys have knockout power. Let's not forget about it. It's just that the only problem is that when you face guys at a higher level that have a stronger, tenacity, tendency to keep themselves at bay, in the fight, that's what makes the fight a lot more interesting because you don't know how that fighter is going to break down. So it's a lot more difficult to really determine how that fight is really going to go. So the only reason why I think Lubin may lose this fight is only because that Rosario, he has a lot of grit. Rosario does not just back away from a fight. Like we've seen him hurt several times, but whenever he's hurt, he still keeps coming at you. Yeah, he got knocked out by, Nathaniel Gallimore, and he got knocked out by Jermell Charlo, but that's it. When he fought J-Rock, J-Rock hit him with everything he got, and guess what? He still kept on coming. But prior to any other fights where he's done well, like the Gervonta Clark fight, he just basically walked through Gervonta and, he knocked him out of the ring at one point, and Gervonta came back and, Rosario still won. So there's like there's a lot of speculation more on Erickson Lubin compared to Rosario, because Rosario, he's basically like a tank. He's very strong. He's very vivid. he knows how to make a fight, and he does not give you breathing room, just like what Batir Akhmedov does. But the only issue that I really have with Lubin is just that if he's gonna be a sucker for any of Jason's punches where he leaves himself wide open, and then boom, it might be game over. But if Lubin wins this fight, then Lubin has all the credibility in the world to do what he wants to do, because now it gives him a bigger shot at Jermell Charlo, which I think Charlo, he's going to he's going to vacate all the belts. So what's going to happen is that all those guys at PBC will probably take those fights, and then that piece of shit Anthony Fowler will come around and try to compete for the titles. Honestly, Anthony Fowler, he is the biggest loser in all of British boxing. This motherfucker says, "Oh, I'm just going to keep defending my WBA Intercontinental title," and yet he doesn't make any mention of Jermell Charlo. He don't even mention not even one black American or black foreign fighter, because he knows all those killers at 154 are Jermell Charlo, Jason Rosario, J-Rock, and then maybe Sebastian Fundora. See, like, honestly, if Fowler wants to get, maybe like, let the weakest link out of 154, I would go with like, Sebastian Fundora, or maybe like, I don't want to say Terrell Gausha, because Terrell Gausha would beat he would literally crush Anthony Fowler. Anthony Fowler would get obliterated by Terrell Gausha. So that's too big of a skill gap as far as like, Fowler's style and just how he fights. He will never mess around with any black fighters. But if we're gonna use like any good decent fighter, I'm gonna probably have to go with like I don't even know, maybe like a Dennis Hogan. Like I don't know, man. It's just it's just sad just to see how things are going. But no, even if he fights like a guy like Tim Tszyu, because Tim Tszyu, he's definitely gonna be on the come up, because if Tim Tszyu does not duck any of these fighters at 154, he's gonna probably fight J-Rock. He's gonna probably fight Terrell Gausha. But another good fighter that I personally speak with from time to time, don't forget about Chordale Booker. Chordale Booker, he's gonna be on the rise, and I think he's probably gonna fight. Honestly, like, I want to see him fight maybe J-Rock or Fundora, because I brought that up with him the other day, because he asked on on one of his Instagram postings, who do y'all want me, like yeah, he said like, who do y'all want me, or who do y'all want to see me fight, and I put down Fundora or J-Rock, and he said he's with it with those fights, and I said, bro, let's make it happen, because I think that actually makes all the sense in the world. If I'm Chordale Booker, I could go after J-Rock or go after Fundora, fight for a WBA interim belt, which I think that's what's probably going to happen. But don't forget about that other 154 pounder, Israel Madrimov. I think Israel, he's going to become a problem in that division as well, but I don't really think so. Like when he gets further down the line, when he has to fight those really tough fights. But I think either way, it's going to be interesting to see where things go, because there's just so much, like, I don't know, there's so much talent up there where you just don't know where where things are going to go. So I don't know how things will play out, and I would like to hope so. It's just that when you see the competition getting tougher and tougher, you best believe that you bring your A game every time when you fight. You have to give 110% if you want to keep yourself, at the top. But even if you're working your way to the top, you have to have that confidence and motivation to keep yourself at there. And I think that's what will keep the division hot. And I think 154 is probably going to be the next money making division. Even though that Jermell Charlo, he's going to leave because he's like, yeah, look, I already beat the crap out of everybody, so he might fuck around and lose to Brian Castano, but I think 9 times out of 10 he's going to probably beat Brian Castano. I definitely have Charlo whipping Castano by brutal, I'd say 9th round stoppage, if not earlier. But it just might be a straight up unanimous, decision victory. But I'm not gonna fuck around and watch Jermell Charlo's pay-per-view. He's definitely not gonna earn my money knowing that he said race, don't matter in boxing. But I'm gonna just, probably just stream the living crap out of that fight. But yeah, either way, I think Erickson Lubin is gonna probably edge this out over Rosario, but this is a 50-50 fight, so I'm not even correct on this. But if Rosario catches Lubin with something that he don't see, Lubin could literally have a bad night and fuck around and get knocked out. So I'm gonna say Rosario by late stoppage. That's just my proper prediction of how I see that fight, but that could change. So I have 60-40, Rosario's Jason Rosario's way. He definitely has the higher favoritism to win that fight. So yeah, let's get on with the next fight, the main event with Gervonta Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios. This is a really good stylistic matchup. I think Gervonta Davis, he is daring to be great, and I think he is making history if he does this. But Gervonta Tank Davis is moving up 2 weight divisions to fight undefeated WBA regular super lightweight champion of the world, Mario Barrios. So this is going to be a really tough fight because Gervonta Tank Davis, he is only 5'5". He only has a 68, 69 inch arm reach, and Gervonta's frame is not as big compared to Mario Barrios. As I do believe Barrios will probably mess around and might get clipped by Gervonta Tank Davis, this is a very tough fight. I don't think Tank is going to have the freedom that he thinks he would to try to fight on the inside. I think Barrios is just basically gonna keep jabbing him, move away, not let Tank try to get onto the inside with him. But if Tank hits Barrios to the body or hit him to a hard counter that could possibly get Barrios clipped, it's gonna be a short night. The reason why is because I think Barrios, he can leave himself wide open when he does not think of who's in front of him. And I think when he does not respect someone's power, that's when he could walk you down and give you some problems. But that could be the same thing for Gervonta Tank Davis. Because what if Gervonta Davis does not feel these punches out of Barrios? Which I'm not saying Barrios is a heavy hitter, but let's just say if his punches, actually didn't do any damage compared to, what Gervonta will do to him, I think Tank could easily knock him out. That could be a very easy night for Gervonta Davis. But then again, we don't know because both of these guys have different frames, and how they punch and how they move around in the ring. It's really weird of how to see this fight broken down stylistically. But I think Gervonta, he's definitely going to edge him. I would say late 11th round stoppage. Barrios is not going to stay in the pocket with Tank. He's going to have to move and just keep using his jab on Tank all day. Because if he does not use his jab, Gervonta is just going to eat him alive. And I think Barrios is going to have a really bad night. So I don't know how that fight will really play out stylistically, but it'll be interesting to see where that fight goes, because if Gervonta hits Barrios to the body, and everybody thinks like his power is not going to carry over to 140, and people use like the Gamboa fight as a good example for that, and I say bullshit, because Gamboa, he was hurt by Tank's punches, and Gervonta, even though he was being a bit careless in that fight by not using, like the proper footwork and using like more punches to the body, that's really why Gamboa wasn't really getting hurt enough by Gervonta. He was kind of just headhunting too much on Gamboa, and he wasn't really thinking too much about how much body work he could put into Gamboa, because Gamboa, he obviously does not like getting hit to the body compared to getting hit to the face. He can obviously take a punch, to the face, but when it's getting hit to the body, it's like Gamboa has to move, away from you. So now the only issue is just simply that you have to take notice of this fight, that there's going to be a lot of trades between Barrios and Tank, because Tank, he is not going to go blow for blow with Barrios, unless Barrios is just not as powerful of a puncher compared to Tank. Then Tank, he'll just dog walk him, and then he's just going to basically kill Tank, or Gervonta will just kill Barrios with power shots, to the body, and throw punches with bad conviction in order to win the fight. So, it's going to be very interesting to see what Gervonta will do, because if he does not do that, it might be a really bad night for Gervonta. But I would say my final prediction for this fight will probably be Gervonta by the 11th round TKO victory. But if he does not do that, I could definitely see Barrios beating Tank, probably at a unanimous decision, or maybe a late round stoppage. Who knows? That might be interesting, because if Barrios' power is there and Gervonta's power is there, Gervonta has to be careful, especially when you're going to get hit by a guy like Barrios. And everybody wants to just try to like dick ride for Mario Barrios, to say, oh, Barrios, he's going to beat the shit out of Tank, blah blah blah. Bruh, just seriously stop. Like, Barrios is an amazing fighter. I love watching him, but you have to stop thinking that Barrios and all these fighters that will be fighting Tank in the future, it's just going to demolish him. That's just not how it works. You have to really be disciplined and really know what you're doing against a Gervonta Tank Davis that has a lot more experience in the bag, and he's using his fundamentals as a southpaw to utilize his disadvantages to be turned as advantages. So I think Gervonta, he's on his way to success, and I wish him nothing but the best, because I really love watching Gervonta Davis fight, because he's so interesting, and he really makes like a fight very competitive. So I hope that Tank really does give people like the fight that we want to see, because I think Tank will definitely stop Barrios if he knows what he's doing. But if he gets pressured too much by Barrios' punches, then I'm probably gonna have to give it to Barrios, at a late round stoppage. But I don't think that's gonna be possible, because Gervonta, he got one hell of a chin. So does Barrios too. But I think when Barrios, he gets hit with that really hard punch that Tank gives him, it's going to be a really short night for Mario Barrios. Or even Gervonta Davis. Who knows? But either way, that's pretty much my prediction. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And I am out. Bye. Thank you. Give me 1 second.